Social Security can't compete with stocks, huh? Huh? Yeah, get ready to apologize to me, because I'm going to prove you wrong. And I got the blackboard right behind me, the whiteboard. How dare I say whiteboard? Did you hear about the new Google AI Genesis? It's so stupid. You can't say, produce me a happy white couple or a happy white family. It won't do it. You can do happy blacks, happy whatever people. You can't do happy whites. They'll say, oh, we don't want to perpetuate racism. You say, give me an example of people native of Scotland, and there's like a black guy. It's so stupid. Do you think blacks want this stuff? They don't, dude. Give me a freaking break. No one wants to be treated like babies. This is insanity. Google, you suck. And I love YouTube. I actually like Google. Everything not political, I think Google's search engine is still fantastic. But this is just, you can't show a happy white family on Google Genesis. So dumb. Oh my goodness, man. I can't believe it. Anyway, so I'm just minding my own business, reading this book this morning, and this is Pensions, Labor, and Individual Choice from the MBER. This book, I think, was published in 1985 from, what they did is, in 1983, all these economists went to Puerto Rico. I wish I could roll my R's. That sounds like a native non-gringo, but I can't. So they went to Puerto Rico and they had this conference on Social Security, retirement, whatnot, all these economists. And this is just the papers they presented. So I'm reading this paper from Michael Hurd and John Chauvin. Now, you may or may not be familiar with Michael Hurd from my channel, because Michael Hurd and Susan, I don't know, I guess say Susan Rowetter are a married couple, and they've been doing some critical work on retirement planning, just freaking crushing. Just kick-ass take names. That's just a fact. And then when I was interviewing Andrew Biggs, he knows those guys. I said, Andrew, on behalf of my YouTube channel, tell Michael and Susan that they're freaking kicking ass and taking names, because they're helping people retire. That's just a fact. They're doing God's work. Chauvin is a big professor over at Stanford, and he did a couple of years ago, probably 4 years ago now. I did some stuff on his take on Social Security, and I kind of took some issue with it, but it was all good. Anyway, so here's their paper. And what happened right here was, I'm just going to quote from this page right here. Their paper is titled "The Distributional Impact of Social Security." And what they say here, between 1968 and 1974, Social Security benefits were raised at a rate considerably higher than the rate of inflation. Therefore, if the system had been previously actuarially fair, it wasn't after this. And the reason was because Congress was in charge of raising the benefits for Social Security. And so Congress said, well, we're going to raise benefits beyond the rate of inflation simply because there's votes to be had. You see what I'm saying? And then, of course, in 1978, I can't remember when it was, but it got pegged to inflation not long after that. I can't remember off the top of my head the specific year. And ever since, we've heard people say, if I only would invest my money in the stock market, Josh, instead of Social Security, I'd be multimillionaire. It drives me crazy. So we're going to show you what I've come up with, because it occurred to me. It said, between 1968 and 1974, the Congress just raising Social Security benefits, that you can outlive, that they were just, politically. I said, wonder what happened with Social Security benefits from 1966 to 1981. And that's the 15-year time frame that basically we all look at as high inflation, low rates of return in the markets. Pretty much the worst time to have retired in histoire. That's how French people say histoire. My man Antonio Chevalier, who's a tailor, I assume he's French, so he and I are brothers from another mother. Histoire, merci beaucoup, parlez-vous? That's all I really know. Un, deux, trois. Anyway, so I said, what happened? What was the average Social Security benefit in 1966, and what was the average Social Security benefit in 1981? Now let's compare that to investing, shall we? Because remember, stocks will destroy Social Security. Oh my goodness, we're getting robbed. They're giving it to illegal immigrants, blah, blah, blah. So the average Social Security benefit in 1966 was $84.35, according to the Social Security Administration. All right, you can argue that, you can challenge it, that's fine. I'm going to go with it. If we that's the monthly benefit. If we annualize that, that's $1,000 basically a year. That's $1,012 a year. In 1981, the average Social Security benefit was $385.97. If we annualize that, it's $46.30 a year. All right, that gives us a 10.67% average growth rate on Social Security. That's not too shabby, 10.67. Again, partly from 1968 to 1974, Congress was just, going what Congress does best, spend other people's money and let other people pay for it later. It's never going to get paid, but that's okay. So I said, okay, if we take 1,012 and 4630 and we use a 4% rule, all right, so we take that amount of money, we divide by 0.04, how much of a portfolio do we need to be able to equate the money we're getting from Social Security? All right, so we're going to, again, I hope this makes sense. So Social Security is going to give us 1,012. If we're using a 4% rule, how much of our portfolio would we need to generate $1,012? And the answer in this case is $25,000, a little bit, about $25,300, but still $25,000. So if you had $25,000 in a portfolio, we could generate 4%, $1,012 a year. All right, everybody follow me so far? So we're going to take that $25,000 and we're going to put it in the S&P 500. Why is it? Okay, I guess you guys, why is it doing like that? It shouldn't be doing like that. Okay, we're going to put in the S&P 500. The S&P 500 in 1966, $25,000, it gave us $1,012 a year, 4%. All right. Fast forward to the end of 1981, the S&P 500 was worth $18,154. And our 4% rule was only giving us $29.21 a year. That's it. Yet Social Security was giving us what? $4,630 a year. So not only did the S&P 500 lose $7,000, it actually didn't even keep even close to what the rate of return for Social Security was. That just didn't. You can say however you want to say it. Well, the government, you can say all this stuff. All I know is I'm sitting there, need to put food on the table. And that's all we care about. How do I make ends meet? And you can say, well, frickin' Carter and Reagan and Nixon. I don't care. You can say, well, I don't care. The facts, these are the facts. The S&P 500 from 1966 to 1981, that's 15 years, dude. That's not like 1 year. Went down from 25,000 to 18,154 while it's taking 4% a year out. By 4% a year, went from $1,000 to basically $3,000, which is well lower than what I was getting in Social Security. And that's just a fact. The S&P 500, it would have ran out in 1995. So it would have been there basically for the bulk of my retirement. I grant you that. But it's still, there's no legacy to leave either. If I'm taking 4% a year out, I started in 1966. It's just a fact. All right, so then I said, well, what if we did Wellington? Well, Wellington went down to $9,727. And everything, these are the same thing, 4% in terms of we're doing 4% on top of that. So 4%, so we're starting with 1,012. We're increasing it every year at 4%. So it's going to be 29.21 for all these investments. So here's the Wellington Fund. We start with 1,012 a year. We start with $25,000, the same thing. And at the end of 15 years, we got to be pulling 29.21 out because that's 4% adjusted each and every year with inflation. So Wellington now went from 25,000 to 9,700 bucks, and then I ran out of money in 1987. All right, so Wellington, I got 6 more years. That's it, and then I'm done. So that's 21 years, and Wellington is exhausted. Not too good. All right, so then I said the Investment Company of America, an American fund, which I'm a big fan of, and the Investment Company of America is like blue chip dividend-paying stocks and whatnot. All right, no bonds, blue chip dividend-paying stocks. Wellington, of course, has about 30 to 40% in bonds. S&P 500 has nothing. So in this case, the ICA, the Investment Company of America, and the only reason I'm using that is because I got that in my spreadsheet from Daniel Kuhlbert's 55e.co website. You can buy his spreadsheet. I think it's $35. The bucket spreadsheet he uses, which I freaking love, and 55e.co. So I would encourage you to look at my man Daniel Kuhlbert. So Wellington, ICA Investment Company of America went from $25,000 to $41,000. So not quite double, but it still went to $41,000. And you can see it never ran out of money, ever, which is good. So the ICA was the best of those 3 so far. And then I said, well, if we just did an income fund, Putnam Income Fund here, which is the longest fund, bond fund that we have records to. And again, I don't care about like the yields on the treasuries and all that. I want to see actual funds, actual data that was regulated and monitored by the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission. So we can say, well, if you had bond, I said, I don't want to do that. I want to say, what did an actual fund do? Real life. I don't care about theoretical. I want reality. And here, the Putnam fell from 25,000 to 13,000. Again, paying the same amount of money, 29.21, because we're using a 4% rule. We start with 1,012. We adjust it each and every year with inflation. That 1,012 at the end of 15 years, we got to be taking out 29.21 a year. All right, so Putnam right here was paying 13.26, was worth only 13.26, a little bit more than half what our starting point was. And then Putnam ran out of money in 1989. All right, so we have a bond fund, we have a blue chip stock fund, we have a balanced, moderately aggressive balanced fund, and we got the S&P 500. None of them came anywhere near to Social Security. Because at 4% on 4630, which is what Social Security was paying, Social Security at the end of 1981, it went to 4630 was the average Social Security benefit. At 4%, we should have $115,000 to give us that same income, and none of these do. The best one here is 40. The ICA doesn't come close. It's, I mean, about a third of that. So the idea that Social Security underperforms the S&P 500 or stocks, it's recency bias, man. And then we can look at it too. So let's check this out. One second. All right, so let's look at what happened with Social Security from 2000 to 2009. And we can see the average benefit in 2000 was $844. So we take $844 times that by 12. That's $10,128. $10,120. Let me pause real quick. All right, so the average Social Security benefit in 2000 was $844. We times that by 12. That's $10,128 is the average recipient was getting. We divide that by 0.04. That means we need a portfolio of roughly $50,000, $253,000 to generate that kind of income safely, quote unquote. In 2009, the average Social Security benefit increased by 3.26% a year from 2000 to 2009 to 1164. Times that by 12, and the average Social Security benefit annualized was roughly $14,000. Divide that by 0.04, and we should have $349,000 left in our portfolio in which to generate that kind of income right there safely. All right, so now let's go to Portfolio Visualizer, and we'll just take a gander at the S&P 500, see what that did. All right, so let's take a look here, and we're going to go to S&P 500 2000, and we're going to start with 253,000 schmackaroonies, and we're going to go to 2009. All right. We're going to start with 253 VFINX. There we go, 100%, boink, boink. And we're going to go, and we are going to take, we're not going to rebalance because we're not rebalancing. We're going to withdraw fixed amount, 4% withdraw, fixed percentage. I don't know if I want that fixed amount. We're going to do fixed amount here. And we're going to do that, hold on a second. It's how much was it? It was 10128. 10128. And we're going to adjust that for inflation. Yes, sir. So let's see what we got here. 10128. Boink. All right, cool. Let me pause. All right, so here we go. So we're taking $253,000. Yep. We're starting 2000. Yep. We're taking 10,128. Yep. That's what we're doing. We're taking that annually, adjusted for inflation. All right, and we're going to show you in the S&P 500. Yep. And at the end of our return here, our compounded annual growth rate is negative 8.41%. And that's an average rate of return. Not good. So we start with 253 and we end with 105. 253, we end with 105. And what did we end up here? We needed $349,000. So we had less than a third of what we needed to keep that up. So now we're just going to show you how long this lasted in the S&P 500. And we're going to go to, let's go to 2024 and see how long the S&P 500. Then we'll go to Wellington. We'll do the same thing. And we can see that this ran out of money. Right, I still got about $78,000 in there, $79,000, 24 years later. But the amount of money we're taking out now, we're going to get stopped. All right, so now let's see what the Wellington did, 2009. All right, we're going to go to Wellington, VWELX. Wellington, and we're going to do the same crap because Wellington's basically 65-35, give or take. All right, so Wellington start with 253, and at the end of 2009, we have 309. All right, good. So Wellington kept up a lot closer than Social Security, and the reason for that is because of blue chip stocks in the Wellington and the bonds itself. So good, but it's still, Social Security still beat the Wellington. Now let's go to 2024, and we'll see what Wellington has done. Imagine it's got to be pretty good still, I think. Let's see. Yeah. So Wellington is still at 666. How dare you, Wellington? 666. So Wellington crushed for sure. But I mean, again, those 2000, 2009, the S&P 500 didn't, and we still beat Social Security, still beat Wellington. Let's go to American Funds, which is AIVSX, if memory serves. Yep, AIV. Let's see that one. All stocks. We'll see how that guy did. And we went to 2009 right there. All right, there we go. Analyze portfolio. Be just like me, and Mr. T. Be just like me. Drug free. You know why no one ever died on the A-Team? Because they didn't use drugs. And you shouldn't use drugs either. If you know that song, tell me in the show notes who did that song. All right, so what was it? It's American Income Investment Company of America, all stocks, all blue chip stocks. We started with 253. We ended with 192 at the end of 2009. So we're well below what Social Security did. Now we go to 2024, as we say in Mexico, which, you know, I'm from Tampico. And we go down here and we see ICA is now up to 424. All right, and the last one we're going to do, I don't know the Putnam one, so we're not even going to do that. That was just all bonds anyway. The ticker, I'm not sure the ticker of Putnam. Lastly, let's see what the average Social Security benefit for 2024 is, shall we? Yes, we shall. All right, so the average Social Security benefit in 2023, we obviously don't have 2024 numbers yet, was, can you see that? Yeah, was $19.07 a month. We times that by 12. That gives us $22.88 a year, $22,884 a year. Divide that by 0.04, again, to maintain the 4% rule. That means we need to have at least 572 in our portfolio to rectify what Social Security has done. Now, the only thing that did was Wellington had 666,000. S&P 500 didn't have that much. The other one, the ICA, didn't have that much. So you can argue all day long, well, I'm cherry picking. All right, well, you're cherry picking too. I mean, everybody's cherry picking. You can cherry pick till you're blue in the face. You say, well, stocks have done better in the long run, going back to 1926 or whatever. I mean, it's just so stupid, because the only thing that matters is your retirement, your long run. So yes, maybe stocks have done better in the long run. Did it do better during this time frame? And the facts are, I just proven to you that Social Security has not lost to stocks. You can find examples of this where Social Security destroys stocks. And these aren't chump changes now. You know, I'm 53, so we're talking 1966. That's 58 years. So over the course of 15 years, Social Security dominated stocks from 1966 and 1981. Over the course of another 9 years, 10 years, 2000 to 2009, that's 10 years, Social Security dominated stocks. So I'm 58 years, 15 plus 10, 25 of those, that time frame, Social Security beat stocks. That's just a fact, dude. That, you know, over the course of since 1966, I mean, you can't argue that. So you can say, well, I mean, you can say it all day long, but the facts are almost half the time did Social Security beat stocks. And now when it comes to your ability to go night-night, I can guarantee your Social Security gave you comfort that the stock market did not. I'm just telling you right now how easy it is for these young whippersnappers to forget what happened in 2007 and 8, what happened in 2000, 2001, and 2, and in the first quarter of 2003. I was working with clients all those years. Let me tell you, man, it's easy to overlook your ability to sleep at night when the markets are getting crushed, when you are not dealing with that. When you start dealing with it, woo, Nelly. Anyway, just another feather in the cap for Social Security, another reason why we got to make sure that it's solvent. It's just that simple, man. And how do you make sure it's solvent? Well, we're going to have to put more money into it. And as my man says here, right here, this is Hurd and Chauvin, they say in this book about Social Security solvency, they say very explicitly, raising the taxes of workers or increasing the retirement age will reduce the rate of return of the present working generation. Cutting benefits, perhaps by making them taxable, will lower the gains of today's elderly. I mean, so if you're going to raise taxes, you're going to increase the retirement age, you're going to cut benefits, you're hurting people who are currently on the system, that's for sure. Or you're going to hurt the rate of return for future generations. And I mean, but something's got to give. Again, what I would say, wealth tax, get rid of QCD, or not QCDs, QDIs. And what I do is I do one of these things. Get rid of all charitable deductions. Just make it fair, even Steven. Because the vast majority of income earners in the United States don't itemize. They just don't. So basically, get rid of all charitable deductions. You're going after I hate to say going after, it's not a vendetta against these people, but you're going to make more taxable income to the rich, the Warren Buffetts of the world. I got no qualm with that whatsoever. All right, that's easy. I've still raised payroll tax with 50 basis points on both sides. I think there has to be some skin in the game for the workers as well. They can't just rely on the largesse of Bezos and whatnot while he's still buying his billion-dollar yacht. Let's see. Our primary result was that the Social Security transfers and rate of return was very high for the population in 1969 and remained high throughout the decade. People in our sample could expect to receive 3 to 4 times as much in benefits as their contributions, even with using a 3% real rate of time discount in calculating death probabilities using current life tables. So, again, just keep knocking that out. You can argue until we're blue in the face about, well, they didn't do this. It doesn't matter. These are the facts. All right. Love your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Doobie Doo. Don't forget my course. Everything you need to know about investing is available in the Doobie Doo. I got to put it in the Doobie Doo. And if you use the promo code half off, you get half of it until March 7th. All right. God bless. We'll see you.